Imagine Africa, 300,000 years ago. This is the cradle of humanity. Our earliest ancestors, the first Homo sapiens, are learning to survive. They live in small groups, moving across vast landscapes under a powerful sun. Their skin is dark, rich with a pigment called melanin. This melanin is a shield. It protects them from the sun's strong rays. Everyone in these small family groups looks much the same. They share the same dark skin, the same dark hair, and the same dark eyes. This is the color of survival. It is the color that has protected humans for thousands of generations. It is a sign of their connection to the land and the sky. But then, something entirely new happens. A baby is born. This baby is different. Its skin is not dark, but very light. Its hair is not black, but a pale yellow or white. Its eyes are not brown, but a light blue or gray. This child is the first to be born with a condition we now call albinism. In a world where dark skin is the norm, this child is a striking contrast. It is a moment of pure chance. A tiny change in the genetic instructions passed down from its parents has caused this difference. This child is a living question, a mystery to its family. How could this happen? What does it mean for the child? And what does it mean for the group? This was not a single event. It happened more than once, in different places, at different times. Albinism is not a new story. It is a human story that is as old as our species itself. The genetic changes that cause albinism can occur in any population, but they first appeared here, in Africa. The birth of a child with albinism would have been a profound event. The small community would have had to make sense of this new reality. They would have to learn how to care for a child who was physically different. This was the very beginning of a long journey, a journey that would stretch across hundreds of thousands of years, shaping lives and communities in ways no one could have predicted. The appearance of this child marks a new thread in the human tapestry. It is a thread of light against a dark background. The story of albinism is not separate from the story of Africa. It began in Africa. It was shaped by African environments, by African migrations, and by African cultures. This first child and the many others who followed over millennia were not outsiders. They were part of the family of humanity from the very beginning. Their story tells us about genetics, about survival, and about how communities respond to difference. It is a testament to the incredible diversity that has always been a part of our shared human heritage. To understand albinism, we must first understand what gives our skin its color. Inside our bodies we have special cells called melanocytes. Think of them as tiny factories. Their job is to produce a pigment called melanin. Melanin is what gives color to our skin, our hair, and our eyes. For most people living in Africa, these factories are very busy. They produce a lot of melanin, which results in dark skin, dark hair, and brown eyes. This dark melanin, called eumelanin, is incredibly good at absorbing the sun's ultraviolet, or UV rays. This protection is vital in a place like Africa, where the sun is intense all year round. It acts like a natural sunblock, built right into the skin. Albinism happens when there is a problem with these melanin factories. The genetic instructions that tell the factories how to work have a mistake in them. This mistake is a change, or mutation, in one of several genes. The most common type is called oculocutaneous albinism, or OCA. This affects the eyes, skin, and hair. Because of this genetic change, the melanocyte factories either cannot produce melanin at all, or they can only produce a very small amount. It is not that the factories are missing. They are there, but they are not working correctly. This is why a person with albinism has very light skin, hair, and eyes. This genetic change is passed down from parents to their children. Albinism is a recessive trait. This means that for a child to have albinism, they must inherit the gene for it from both their mother and their father. Many people carry a single copy of the albinism gene without showing any signs of it. Their other, working gene, provides enough instructions for their bodies to make melanin. They are carriers. If two carriers have a child together, there is a 1 in 4 chance that the child will inherit a copy of the albinism gene from each parent. When this happens, the child will be born with albinism. This explains why it can appear in a family with no recent history of the condition. So, albinism is not a disease that one can catch. It is a genetic condition. It is a variation in the way the human body is built. The science is clear. The difference lies in the production of a single pigment. This simple biological fact has had profound consequences for people with the condition throughout human history. The lack of melanin affects not only a person's appearance, but also their health. The eyes are affected, often causing vision problems. The skin is left without its natural protection against the sun. Understanding this science is the first step to understanding the long and complex history of people with albinism in Africa. For our earliest ancestors, life was a constant struggle for survival. In this deep past, a child born with albinism faced enormous challenges. The most immediate threat was the sun. Without melanin to protect their skin, they would have been extremely vulnerable to sunburn. Over time, this constant sun exposure could lead to skin cancer, a deadly threat in a world without modern medicine. Their eyes, also lacking pigment, would have been very sensitive to the bright African sunlight. This could make it difficult to see clearly, affecting their ability to hunt, to gather food, and to spot predators. Survival for anyone was hard, but for a person with albinism, it was even harder. These early humans lived in small, mobile groups. They were hunter-gatherers. Because these groups were so small, the gene for albinism would have been very rare. A child with albinism might be born only once every few generations. The survival of that child, and the gene they carried, was never guaranteed. If the child did not live long enough to have children of their own, that specific line of the gene would disappear from the group. The challenges were immense. The sun was a constant danger, and poor vision would have made daily tasks more difficult. The fate of the albinism gene was fragile, hanging by a thread in these ancient populations. As humans began to migrate across Africa, they formed new, separate populations. Sometimes, a small group would break away and settle in a new area. This is known as the founder effect. If one of the founders of this new group happened to be a carrier of the albinism gene, that gene would become more common in the new community than it was in the larger population they left behind. Over thousands of years, as different groups spread across the continent, this process happened again and again. It created pockets where the albinism gene was more frequent. This is not because the gene was advantageous, it was simply a matter of chance and population genetics. Over tens of thousands of years, the story of albinism in Africa became a story of different regions. In some areas, the gene may have vanished completely. In others, it persisted, passed down silently by carriers from one generation to the next. The constant movement of people, the splitting of groups, and the founding of new communities all played a role. This long period of migration and separation laid the groundwork for the patterns of albinism we see today. It was a slow, quiet process. The albinism gene was traveling with people, a hidden passenger on the long journey of human expansion across the African continent. The greatest physical challenge for a person with albinism in Africa has always been the sun. Without the protective shield of melanin, the skin is an open target for ultraviolet radiation. In ancient times, and even today in many rural areas, this meant a life lived with the constant risk of severe sunburn. This was not just a matter of discomfort. Repeated severe burns across a lifetime lead to a much higher risk of developing skin cancers. Without access to modern surgery or treatments, these cancers were almost always fatal. This stark reality meant that for much of history, the life expectancy for a person with albinism was often tragically short. Survival depended on finding ways to stay out of the sun. Vision impairment was another major hurdle. The same melanin that colors our skin also plays a crucial role in the development of our eyes. It helps the optic nerves connect correctly to the brain. Without it, the eyes cannot focus properly, and depth perception can be poor. This condition, which all people with albinism have to some degree, would have made life as a hunter-gatherer very difficult. Spotting distant animals, identifying safe plants, or navigating tricky terrain would have been a challenge. These physical limitations were not a sign of weakness, but a simple biological fact that shaped the lives and roles of individuals with albinism within their communities. Despite these challenges, people with albinism survived. They did not survive alone. They survived because they were part of a community. Human beings are social creatures. We take care of one another. A person who could not spend long hours hunting in the bright sun might have contributed to the group in other ways. They might have excelled at tasks done in the shade, such as making tools, weaving baskets, preparing food, or telling stories. The community would have understood the child's limitations. They would have provided shade, protection, and support. Survival was a collective effort. The group's success depended on the contributions of all its members, whatever their abilities. The community's role was therefore essential. It was the social buffer against the harshness of the environment. The family and the larger group provided the shade that the body could not. They helped the person with albinism find a valuable role that matched their abilities. This support system allowed individuals to live, to contribute, and to have families of their own. This is how the albinism gene was able to persist. It was carried not just in the DNA of individuals, but also in the social fabric of the community that nurtured them. Their story is a powerful reminder that human strength is found not just in physical toughness, but in cooperation and care. About 10,000 years ago, life in Africa began to change in a big way. People started to practice agriculture. They learned to grow crops and raise animals. This meant they no longer had to move around constantly to find food. They began to settle down in one place, forming permanent villages. This shift had a huge impact on the story of albinism. In a settled agricultural society, life was different. The work was still hard, but some tasks could be done in or near the home, out of the direct sun. This created new opportunities for people with albinism to contribute and thrive in ways that might have been more difficult in a nomadic, hunter-gatherer society. As villages grew into towns, and towns into larger kingdoms, populations became more concentrated. People were living closer together than ever before. In these larger, more stable populations, the chances of two carriers of the albinism gene meeting and having children increased. This did not necessarily make the gene more common overall, but it made the birth of a child with albinism a more visible event. Instead of a rare occurrence in a tiny, isolated band, it was now something that might be seen more regularly within a larger community. This increased visibility began to shape cultural beliefs and social attitudes towards people with albinism. With this increased visibility came a wide range of cultural interpretations. There was no single African view of albinism. In some societies, people with albinism were seen as special or sacred. Their unique appearance was sometimes associated with the spirit world or with magical powers. They might become healers, spiritual leaders, or advisors to chiefs. In these contexts, they were often respected and protected. However, in other societies, their difference was met with fear and suspicion. They were sometimes ostracized or became the victims of superstitious beliefs that led to persecution. These different cultural responses could exist side by side, even in neighboring regions. The story of albinism in the last few thousand years is therefore not just a biological one, it is also a cultural one. The experience of a person with albinism was shaped by the beliefs and practices of their specific community. Their life could be one of honor or one of hardship, depending entirely on where they were born. These complex social dynamics added another layer to the ancient challenges of sun and sight. The history of albinism in Africa is a mosaic of different experiences, reflecting the incredible diversity of the continent's cultures. It shows how societies have grappled with difference, sometimes with acceptance and sometimes with fear. Today, the continent of Africa shows the highest rates of albinism in the world. This is not an accident. It is the direct result of a history that stretches back 300,000 years. The patterns we see today are a living map of ancient migrations, the founder effect in small populations, and cultural practices. For example, some specific ethnic groups in southern Africa, Tanzania, and Nigeria have a much higher frequency of albinism than the global average. This is clear evidence of genetic histories that have been unfolding on the continent for millennia. The presence and diversity of albinism in Africa is a powerful testament to its deep roots in the human story. The challenges faced by our ancient ancestors with albinism continue to affect people today. Access to healthcare, education, and social acceptance remains a critical issue. Skin cancer is still a major cause of death for people with albinism in many parts of Africa, where sunblock and dermatological care are not always available or affordable. Vision impairment can make it difficult to succeed in school and find employment. Furthermore, the harmful myths and superstitions that arose in past centuries have not disappeared. In some regions, people with albinism still face extreme prejudice, discrimination, and even violence. Their story is a modern struggle as well as an ancient one, but the story is also one of strength, resilience, and advocacy. Today, people with albinism across Africa are raising their voices. They are forming organizations to support one another, to demand their rights, and to educate their communities. They are working to dispel dangerous myths and to promote a message of acceptance. They are artists, activists, politicians, and professionals who are changing the narrative. They are showing the world that albinism is a part of human diversity, not a cause for fear or shame. This modern movement is built on a legacy of survival and community care that is hundreds of thousands of years old. The story of albinism is, therefore, central to the story of Africa. It is not a footnote. It began at the dawn of our species and has been woven into the continent's genetic and cultural fabric ever since. It tells us about the journey of our genes, the power of community, and the ongoing struggle for human dignity. By understanding this deep history, we see that albinism is not a foreign condition or an anomaly. It is one of Africa's oldest stories of human variation. It is a story of hidden light, carried through the ages, that continues to shine brightly today, reminding us of the rich and complex tapestry of what it means to be human.